So now we're going to analyze how a commercial property can be completely debt-free in just 10 years. So in commercial property, the tenant pays for most of the cost of the property. So if you own this building, the tenant's going to be paying for the rent, and then they've got all other associated costs that are baked into the actual contract of the tenancy agreement that they're going to be paying for. So if we look at what actually the investors pay for in real estate. In residential real estate, if you own a property, you're going to be paying for the loan, the property management. If the property goes vacant, you have to list the property to get it rented out. The council, water rates, land tax, insurance, repairs, body corporate, fit out of the property if you need a fridge or a washing machine replaced or dishwasher replaced, you're going to be paying for that. Or a new oven, the utilities as well, you're going to be paying for that. In commercial property, all the investor pays for are the loan, the property management fees, and the vacancy to actually re-tenant the property. So all these other costs that are normally paid by the investor in residential real estate, they're paid by the tenant in commercial property. So what this means is you've just got more cash you can use to pay down the debt. So even if you've got $1 million property that's residential and $1 million property that's commercial, you've got the same loan, all these costs, fixed costs that you can be paying in residential, you don't have to pay for in commercial. So that's going to allow you to have high cash flow. And then what that just means is that you can use it to pay down the property faster. So instead of having a 30-year loan, you can just cut it down because you've got more cash you can use to reinvest to make extra payments to pay down the loan. So this is the secret into commercial property, is because paying debt off your debt quicker allows you to have a passive income sooner. And why this works in commercial property as well is because you can have rental increases and they're baked into the contract. So you can have a 3 or 4% rental increase each year, or something that's, inflation linked. So your income might be so the rent might be a certain price now, but each year it's going to go up 3 or 4%. The fact that the outgoings, such as the rates, insurance, as we saw earlier, they're all being paid by the tenant, which also adds to the fact that you're going to have more cash flow to use to pay down the debt, because your income isn't being eaten up by your expenses. And over time, the gap between the rental income and your interest repayments keeps growing and growing and growing, which you can use to pay down the principal of the actual loan itself. So we see here, this is the actual rent, the blue bars, and the red line is the interest repayments. If you keep having rental increases over time, compounding, your rent's going to just completely compound over time. And the fact that the principal stays the same, but the interest payments are going to go down and down and down as you use the cash flow and the extra passive income to pay down the debt. Your interest rate and your interest repayments are going to go down and down and down till they hit zero. And your actual rents from the property are going to keep increasing because they're linked to a certain rental increase in the property. So you're just going to have more and more passive income. So let's look at an example and see how this actually works and how you can actually pay off a property in 10 years. So I found this warehouse in Wyong, so for $1.9 million. So we've got the $1.9 million purchase price, 30% deposit, and the rent's $121,000 a year. So it's got a decent yield, rental increases of 5% each year, and a 4.5% interest rate. So in year one, you're going to be positive geared $61,000. And if you use that to pay down the debt, as you can see when we scroll down all the way to year 10, the property's going to be completely paid off, and you're going to be generating over $200,000 a year of passive income just from this one property. If we continually reinvest the cash flow into paying down the debt, the property is going to be completely paid off in 10 years. So that's the power of commercial property. Now we look at another example. I found a little retail shop leased to Medibank. So this has got a lower rental increase, a 3.5%. It's got a $1.6 million purchase price, still using a 30% deposit, and the rent's $128,000. So it has a higher yield than the other property, but a lower rental increase. And we're using a 5% interest rates. If we use the cash flow again to pay down the debt, in year one, you're going to be positively geared $69,000, but by year 10, you're going to have the property completely paid off, and it's generating $178,000 a year in passive income. So it's completely debt-free, it's generating passive income, double what the average Australian salary is, just through these one properties. So that's a pretty amazing example of these two different properties that can be completely paid off in 10 years just from their own cash flow. If you reinvest that cash flow to pay down the debt, you're going to be completely wipe off the debt in 10 years, and you're going to be generating all the rent from the property is just going to be going in straight into your bank account. We don't have all those other expenses because the tenant's going to be paying most of the outgoings. Now, if we actually look at a third example where we've got the two properties and we combine the two properties to see what sort of passive income we can generate. So we've got the same warehouse, it's got the same purchase price, same yield, interest rates, rental increases, and you bought these two properties at the same time. So this one, we're going to focus on paying down the debt first, and then we're going to pay down the debt for this one. So we're using the passive income from this property. As we see, we're going to make extra payments this time. So $69,000 in extra payments, which comes from this property. Because as we can see from year one, the cash flow is $69,000. We're going to reinvest that cash flow to pay down this property. So year one, you're going to be cash flowing $61,000 with the extra payments, you're paying down the debt. So by year 7, this property is going to be completely paid off because we're using the cash flow from this property to pay down this property, plus the own cash flow from this property. So year 7 is completely paid off, and you're generating $165,000 a year in cash flow. That's the rent from the property. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use this positive cash flow to pay down this property. So remember, this property we haven't touched in terms of actually paying down the debt. Still got the amount we borrowed, the $1.17 million. So now we're going to make extra payments of $165,000, which is the cash flow from this property. So this property will be paid off in 4 years, and it's going to be generating $134,000 a year in passive income. So in 11 years, these two properties are completely paid off. This one by year 11 is generating $200,000 a year of passive income, and this one is generating $135,000 a year of passive income. So these two properties generating $330,000 a year of passive income, completely debt-free. So that's pretty amazing, because we saw how you can do it with just one property, get it completely paid off in 10 years. If you wait an extra year and you buy these two properties at the same time, and you use the cash flow to pay down the debt, they're completely paid off in 11 years, generating $330,000 a year in passive income. That's pretty amazing, and that these two properties can actually achieve, any sort of lifestyle around the world. And they're not, we didn't do any value add opportunities. We didn't, increase the income. We just stuck with the one tenant, using the simple rental increases and just paying down the debt, living a simple life. So that's how a commercial property can be completely debt-free in just 10 years. Not just one property, but two properties generating over $330,000 a year in passive income, all completely debt-free. It's pretty amazing. The lifestyle opportunities and the freedom you can have is completely endless just through actually buying a commercial property, sacrificing a few years, paying down the debt, and having, complete freedom in 10 years just through paying down the debt through commercial property. These sorts of opportunities aren't available in residential real estate, but they are in commercial just through the cash flow. Now, if you like these sorts of videos, go watch my last video where I show you exactly how you can calculate down to the dollar the vacancy risk of a property. So if a tenant leaves, you know exactly how much you need to save for when the property goes vacant. So go watch that next, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out.